You're watching Rock Creek TV with me, Stephen McGuire. This is part 2. We're at the Stonebridge location of Rock Creek Tap and Grill. My guest today is T-Bone.
Hello.
We're talking about all things drumming, singers, you name it, artistry, all of that stuff. Sitting back on a groove, everything that's kind of crucial, and people don't know why they're having a good time, they just feel it. And the magic is done in the studio with obviously the artist's input, which is critical. So, if you had to, I'm putting you on the spot here, but in your studio, top 3 albums you've worked on.
Oh. Okay. One of my favorite albums wasn't even supposed to be an album at all. It was actually just a little jam that turned into an album.
Wow.
Teresa Sakirk and I were just jamming on some of her original tracks. She had just finished doing the Canadian Idol thing, and she was just getting ready to start doing her own thing. And came over. She's like, I want to play you some songs. I'm like, I'm going to stick up a microphone so we can reference these songs. None of them had names, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, some of them had names. But anyways, we recorded it. She was singing, she was playing guitar. I'm kind of playing drum on the other side of the room, and it ended up becoming her acoustic album.
Wow.
And it was all done with one microphone. Just, add a little bit of a reverb to it, a little bit of compression, and, it turned into one of the most real, natural sounding albums that I've worked on, and it was just, nobody was trying to do anything other than just like, let me show you how these songs go, and I'm like, okay, well, I might like drum along to it a little bit, and then
wow.
She loved what I did, and I.
So tell me this, just from a technical standpoint, one microphone for guitar and vocal,
and drum.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So it was neat, and it wasn't even supposed to be an album, but it just, the way it came out, she was like, you know what, that's perfect. Let's just like add a little bit of reverb, burn it, and I'm gonna sell it on the side of the stage, and it turned into her first album before Something Is Expected came out.
Huh.
And it was just a fun little thing. Again, there was no pressure because we were just jamming and that kind of thing. I would say another album that I had a lot of fun with was the Memory Lane album. And you're gonna think that I'm saying that because you're sitting here, but man, did we have a great time with that album.
We did have a good time with that
Like,
album.
it was all of these great songs that people really loved hearing again in a new way. It had all of these great new arrangements, and I just felt like it had such interesting life to it, and such a refreshing take on some of these great old classics, and it needed to be done. And I'm glad that you did it, and I'm so happy that I got to be part of it.
Awesome.
It was an honor for me.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And one of my other favorite albums was it's Saskatoon Fireside Singers All Is Well. And this is an album where we recorded the choir, they gave it to me, I added horns, I added percussion, I added upright bass and all of these things, and then give it back to them, and it's like, here's what happened, and it's like, where did all of this come from, right? It was a project where it was like given to me and said, do what you do, add what you add, you know what our concerts sound like, you know what our rehearsals sound like, you know who our audience is and what we're going for, and it was such an honor, again, to be just trusted with something,
right,
and to have that creative freedom to do some stuff like that. And I did a Spirit of the Cross album that actually was very similar to that, where choir recorded it. I took the album into my studio for 3 months, brought them into my studio to listen to the final mixes before it got mastered, and they were like, like there was like 7 layers of drums on one of the tracks, and there was like a little string, or sorry, not a string quartet, a brass quartet on one section of a song, and things that they didn't expect, and it was so much fun to just be able to add that to the album. So yeah, those were some of the albums that I've really enjoyed working on.
Now tell me this, have you noticed throughout the years a consistency with artists that you've worked with and the finished product? Meaning, are there certain traits that successful people who you work with have?
Yeah, I think the most successful people that I work with have an enormous amount of trust. They find people who they like their style or they like what they do, and they hand you something and they go, you just do your thing. Don't need to approve it. You don't need to check with me. Go for it. I know that this is your thing and that this is you're comfortable doing this. And to me, successful people have that element of trust, but they also listen in a way that is unlike anybody else. I recently did a gig with Ellen Kolonick, Bart McKay, Bruce Wilkinson, Carmen Rebuka, Kristen Couture, Murray Pulver, and I. And even in the rehearsals, just the way people listened to the music that was being created, most of them had no music. There was no cello part, there's no violin part. They're listening to the vocal, what's happening on guitar, and these people are coming up with parts.
Just
and
organic.
listening to each other, like the strings are listening to each other and winding in through the harmonies of the song as it unfolded. And every time we played it, it was never the same.
It's different.
So it's so inspiring to have people listening on that level, and it makes you want to be a better listener. It makes you want to be more sensitive to the music that is being created at the time, right? So to me, professionals are just great listeners, and they really hand it off and say, do what you do, man. I like what you do, just do it.
So awesome. You're watching Rock Creek TV with my guest T-Bone. This is Delaney. Say hi, Delaney.
Hi.
The service here is unbelievable, you guys. Stonebridge, Rock Creek Tab and Grill.